Hey, what's up, guys? This is Stu2K from Cloud9, and you're listening to TCR.
Yesterday, a date which will live in infamy. There is no blinking at the fact that our people and our interests are in grave danger. With confidence, with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph. So help us God.
Stewie versus Kenny, the smell of gunfire and freedom in the air, and Stewie picking up that kill, and Cloud9 are in the semi-finals. Oh my God, what a story. They shut down G2 almost flawlessly.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Taco can't do anything, the pandemonium in 16 rounds, and Cloud9 are in the grand finals of a major tournament. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw this coming.
Cloud9 is
Eventually
your,
you're going to be right on this.
TCR lock of the major. Cloud9 is going to win it. Cloud9 is going to take the major in Boston handedly,
Yeah.
I might add. I don't know if they're ever going to lose.
My fellow Americans, tonight I want to speak to you about what the United States will do to degrade and ultimately destroy.
Stewie's on his side, but look at the time! Look at the time, there's 7 seconds to blow the bomb! They're trying to build pyramids, but there's no more play! Stewie's won the round! We're going to overtime! Cloud9 have done it!
Do not allow anyone to tell you that it cannot be done. No challenge can match the heart and fight and spirit of America. We will make America great again.
From this position before, he cannot miss a single shot. Guardian waits patiently as Cloud9 sets the push up. Oh, it's happened! They made it work! Cloud9 are your E-League Major champions!
Oh boy. Feels just like yesterday when America was made great again. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast, episode 208, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, January 29th, 2020. The time, 8:21 p.m. Central Time. This might just be the best episode ever. If the intro wasn't a dead giveaway, we are going to go back in time and remember the good old days when NA was on top of Counter-Strike and Cloud9 won the E-League Major back in 2018. January 28th, to the day yesterday. We'll start the show off with that. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Forgotten League, the league everyone seems to be not talking about, the Blast Premier League, which is just kicking off here in a couple of days, and also CDL almost made it 24 hours without any controversy and drama, but not quite, and we're going to talk about the scheduling snafu that they started for themselves. But before we get to any of that, let's introduce everyone. Or before we even do that, make sure you follow us on Twitter, of course, at The Center Ring. Our website, tcr.gg, will get you everything else you need, including our Discord link, our YouTube. Subscribe to that to get a little bit more content from us as well as we upload it there. Hello, my name is Tim. I'm your captain for this journey into esports, and alongside me, as always, it's my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
Dude, that still gives me the shivers till this day listening to that audio.
It's great.
I was like picturing the play as it's happening, Stewie hiding behind the box over there. That was really like, man, I'm glad we witnessed that one too.
It's weird because it really doesn't feel 2 years ago. Like, that's a long time.
It is. I mean, Stewie and them were heading to SK shortly after. and you had that whole era, which kind of gets forgotten now that we've seen him on Liquid for such a long time. But yeah, it's been a long time for sure.
And it's also surprising because it's been that long since Cloud9 has really even been relevant. Positive relevant. I mean, they've been relevant in Counter-Strike, but not for what reasons you want to be.
It's
But
the last time they were full NA.
I mean, you got to think back then Liquid was okay, but not anywhere they're at now. Cloud9 was good, but not a favorite going into that major unless you're a genius thinker like me.
NRG was non-existent virtually in the CS world.
NA, that was dark times for NA.
Yeah.
It really, really was.
But it was the
times.
brightest time too.
So I remember we were all in Discord. I think even some listeners were in there with us watching it. And dude, it was like the Super Bowl is right around the corner. It felt like the Super Bowl, especially because obviously with me being a Cloud9 fan, I just remember
and a Detroit Lions fan. So this really was your Super Bowl.
It really was, because I will never see my actual Lions into the Super Bowl. But I just remember when they got that final kill, just getting up and screaming. I almost wish we were doing the casting couch back then, because that would have been.
Gosh, can you imagine?
To have that memory recorded would have been amazing, because despite all odds, I mean, that was supposed to be FaZe's major with Nico and Olaf Meister, and I mean, they were just supposed to be the dominating factor, and it was
also the last best major final that we had, I feel. There really haven't been a ton of close finals since then. You've had Astralis' dominance against VP, and really they've been a little bit more predictable outcomes, obviously, like Avangar, making it as far as they did. Obviously, we had the Immortals and who was it? Gambit finals, and that was like also a good.
Was that
finals,
after or before?
That was after, right? That was the one right after, I think.
No, was it? That seems so long ago too.
Let's see.
Where does the time fly?
Yeah, I mean, but either way, like there's just that really felt like one of definitely the most intense majors, and I feel like I'm not just saying that as an NA fan. Like that was really a good show going into overtime, and like the clutches that were made. Guardian had so many.
Oh man, I mean Guardian. Realistically, I'll say it today. I said it back then. It was awesome to see Skadoodle get the MVP, because obviously that was his swan song. Like everyone knew the retirement was right around the corner for him, considering before the major, it was rumored that Skadoodle was going to retire and everything like that. Guardian should have been MVP of those finals.
Yeah, Guardian had an incredible run. And you're right. Gambit IMT was the one right before Cloud9.
That's what I thought.
Since Cloud9, it's only been Astralis.
Yeah. Okay. Because we've had 3 majors since, and Astralis has gotten 3 majors. They got the actually, funny enough, Astralis got the other E-League major, I believe 2 majors before that.
Yeah,
against VP, where it was like that epic 16-14 or 16-15 match. What's up, Thorn? I remember that too. Do I get my own league? Call me up.
You're the creative director of TCR.
Me and Thorn are the only 2 people on the face of the planet who remember the E-League major back then. If you're new to Counter-Strike, or even if you're not, do yourself a favor and go back and watch the Cloud9 match. I mean, even if it's just that last map, I think it captures enough of it there, but it's crazy, and it will even make you realize how more crazy their fall has been. I know they're technically back with ATK's roster and everything like that, but it's... And looking back, that was a really good roster that they had.
Well, you look at the players that they had were absolutely incredible.
I mean, Hall of Fame players. If CSGO even did a Hall of Fame. I mean, you're talking about Skadoodle.
Retirement kind of snowballed, I feel like, that whole move, because with him going, obviously that
because I think it was
a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think him retiring was kind of the turning of the page mentally for a lot of people. That that era of Counter-Strike or Cloud9 was short and quick, right? The dominating factor. They were number 2 a few times. I don't even know if they actually peaked at number 1 ever. Like, even after winning the major, I'd like to go see their history at HLTV, because I don't know if they ever even peaked at number 1, which just tells you how ridiculous it was that they won the major to begin with. Let me ask you this, though, because I will say that is the peak of NA Counter-Strike. Easily. Hands down. Like, the peak moment, I should say.
Well, peak moment for sure. It's not even close, right? I don't think it was the peak of NA Counter-Strike, because I do think NA Counter-Strike today is better.
Right. But I'm just saying, like...
But yeah, I mean, there's not even a close number
like,
2.
on center stage, you know, if toe-to-toe, that was, like, the happiest NA Counter-Strike has ever been.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really don't even. I can't even think of what the second best memory would be.
Like, does Liquid getting the Grand Slam, like, it was cool, but did it do anything for you?
No, I mean, it was.
Did you see they got their?
They had the best run.
They got their bricks this week.
Did they get their bricks? That's fantastic.
It's pretty nice. It's all engraved with their names, and I forgot that they won Dallas too. So because it has all the tournaments they won on there, it's like, whew, that is a pretty kick-ass trophy.
Mine would be on eBay tomorrow.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, winning the Grand Slam, it was cool, right? But that's kind of a bit. It's kind of a gimmick Intel does. You know,
I mean, like at least NA Counter-Strike got into a better place because of that major. I feel like the talent level here stepped up, and there was finally like some
respect with NA.
Like a revelation that, hey, we can do this. Like, we can be the best in the world, right? They proved it, and so then you've had the rise of NRG, now Evil Geniuses. You've had Liquid take the next step. We've had stars rise like Twist that were, you know, relatively young in their career at that point, and so NACS is in a really good spot today, and partially because of that, but. You know, we'd started to see the rise at that point, right? Like the Stewie 2K was playing at a whole nother level at that time. You know, Skadoodle was still considered one of the better oppers, but he had started to obviously be on the decline. Hence
right. Well, because that's also not too far after Shroud retiring.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, Shroud was...
And Jordan leaving the team.
But Shroud was kind of like a staple. That was a big pillar on that CS roster, on the Cloud9 roster for CS. And when he left, I don't know how many people were like, oh, they'll definitely improve now.
I mean, to think that the major came after Jordan and Shroud both left the team, I don't think anybody would have seen. I mean, granted, a change probably had to be made, and Shroud was looking to make a move out of Counter-Strike also at that point, but it didn't seem like it was going to all of a sudden take a swing and we're going to be in a major finals right after.
Just, again, it doesn't feel like 2 years ago. It really feels just about a year ago, I would say. Like this time last January, but it just goes to show how much can happen in Counter-Strike, how much can happen in esports, and just, you think, oh, not a big deal, just the roster blew up, buy some players, replace them, you'll bounce right back. But it's not, right?
Not when you lose your best players.
It's been 2 years, and they're just now having talks of, okay, now we're stabilizing.
Had it been like Rush that left, maybe it would have been possible to replace him and get similar productivity. But you lose your leader in Skadoodle, you lose another leader in Stewie, you know, Tarek shortly after. Like, there was just no way to properly rebound in that scenario. You weren't going to be able to acquire the NA talent, and we saw that. That's why we saw the shuffle take place so many times within that team after that event. So hard to replicate, but easily one of our best, if not our best, CS:GO memory I think that we have as viewers and fans for you and me in particular. And it was cool to see it kind of pop back up yesterday on the news feed and see some of the highlight clips, and it makes you go watch those last few rounds of that Inferno match, because they really are quite epic. And so good day for NACS, and hopefully this year is a good year for NACS.
You know, it's funny too, because you mentioned Inferno, and I do remember saying when they picked the map, or when the Inferno was picked, saying like, why did Cloud9 not veto it? They're trash on Inferno. It ended up being the map they won the major on. But I did pick up
iconic map for them now.
It was also the year that oh, that's right. It was the first major. It was the first big major, right, where they expanded it. And I didn't buy stickers to protest because it just turned into a money grab. And I always pick Cloud9 to win, and the one time I don't, buy stickers is the one time, of course, I would have looked like I would have been number one in the sticker rankings. No
The
doubt.
audio's there for you at least.
Yeah, the audio's there. I have proof. Speaking of Cloud9, we talked last week. They are one of the only teams to confirm with the new leagues. They're going to be with B Site. MIBR too? MIBR also confirmed?
Now there have been a handful of announcements, right? Dignitas, Crazy, yes, MIBR, Cloud9 have all confirmed to B Site, Complexity, and there's a couple others now that have even confirmed for ESL. We still obviously don't have a full list.
You need a strong breeze to confirm Astralis tipping over to ESL.
Well, based on recent comments from their owner, it does seem like that they're going to be making the transition to ESL, which is quite shocking because of. I shouldn't say it's quite shocking. I should say it's more.
I think I did say it last episode that it would make more sense for teams like Astralis to go over to ESL.
ESL has notoriously been the dominant league, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the one thing that B-Side has going for it is I think it has won the talent battle. But at the end of the day, who cares about the talent battle if you don't win the team battle? It's still an overall loss if you don't get the best teams in the world. Now you have NIP, you have Complexity, both committed to ESL. You have Astralis, who looks like they're leaning in the way of ESL. And we'll go ahead and give a quick update on this, I guess, before we jump into Blast Premier. But there have been a lot of new comments that have come out. You had the obviously the explanation coming from ESL, which did seem quite weak. It was more apologizing for not giving more advanced notice. Well, okay, no crap, but it didn't really give more
like why
information
didn't
than
you
that.
give advance notice?
They said that like we just are starting to like figure some of this stuff out, and that seems a little irresponsible for an organization that is.
I mean, bro, at least pull our Twitter guy screwed up, right? Like, oh, our Twitter wasn't supposed to tweet out that
we
chart.
had it on TweetDeck like 6 months ago, and shit, it never sent. We didn't realize,
Oh, hacked. We were hacked with that announcement.
Well, and then the CSPPA came out, the Counter-Strike Professional Players Association came out and acknowledged the apology, and their response to me was really weak. Honestly, it showed the lack of spine right now,
bro,
that they have. Just
Have
because
you
they
ever
came out,
seen
well,
a
just so you know,
more-
their acknowledgement was tied to, hey, we are also upset that you didn't give enough notice. Not upset that you cut teams out of the league, not upset that you took away ESL slots, but upset about not giving more notice when really they're supposed to be fighting for the cause of the players. That's not the vibe that I got from their apology either.
It's weird because I remember when the Players Union was announced, or the Players Association, whatever the hell they're calling it for CS, and we talked about on the show like, hey, this is going to be great, right? Finally the players have a voice, and I just feel like, I mean, how many years has that been around? And every time they get brought up, I'm sitting here asking myself, what do you guys do again? Like, what?
Are you looking out for the betterment of the players, or are you looking out for the betterment of the best players? There's a difference in how they're approaching it. Again, I'm not saying that they're not doing anything for all the players. All I'm saying is the apology that they let out seemed really weak to me, or the acknowledgement of ESL's statement. I just felt like they should have been more upset of the fact that teams were removed without notice that now have to compete in the MDL. And let's talk about the MDL for a moment, because that's also quite interesting what's going to happen here, right? At least there is a way right now in ESL's league to advance, right? From MDL, you can get a pro spot in the pro league. B site have not given information as to how you could transition from a pro-am player, a semi-pro player into the professional league. It's not to say that they won't have anything, or not be tied to Face It or something to be like their minor league system, but they haven't announced that. And so I think that's also an important win for ESL right now with all these other L's around them, right? To say that they at least have the MDL league to move forward in. My only thing that I'm curious to see what happens here is MDL was traditionally a mix of high tier 2, low tier 2, like tier 2 teams and high tier 3 teams, even in some cases, were fighting in the MDL league. You're about to drop down 24 teams that will now be competing in MDL, right, to advance. These 24 teams, some of them are considered pro teams, right? Like some of them had pro
Well,
spots.
you have
So
who's there? Envy is considered there.
Sprout, I mean, there's a handful. We would have to go through. Honestly, I don't even have the list in front of me, but just know that there's a handful of teams that have a lot of money invested in them. They have facilities. They have everything they need to be able to succeed. When really now you have this kind of unfair balance, right? Of like tier 2 and tier 3 teams that don't have these competitive advantages because of financial backings, investors, whatever. And it makes a little bit more of a separation in MDL. So you might have some of these teams that were at the bottom of MDL just kind of vanish altogether. They probably won't compete, I'm assuming, beyond a season or two just to be able to keep up with, there's some heavy hitters again at the top of
Yeah.
the league. So again, it's good
A
that
little bit reminds me a little bit of the Overwatch Contenders League, right? You have those heavy hitters up top, and then the guys down below. It's like we're not making money here. We're just burning a hole in our wallet with this roster.
yeah, and I think you will see that. I think you'll see a handful of like tier 2, potentially even tier 3 teams that were in there really just go by the wayside, and that'll make MDL better, I think, as a product. We're gonna have better teams competing in MDL, so there will be a reason to watch them. There'll be a reason for them to promote them. Where I think in Overwatch is a little bit of the opposite effect because it wasn't as big of a league, right? We just took 24 teams that were fighting for pro spots and basically dropped them down, and you're gonna have really solid competition now in the league. You're not going to have some of these all man gaming crews that can just join it for fun and start playing. Like
Right.
that's probably not a possibility anymore. So it's really taking some interesting turns here. But I do, Tim, the more I look at it, I do think ESL now is looking like the favorite. Again, Astralis' owner said it himself that there's about 12 of us that are close to signing. And if he says us, he's not talking about us as in like no name teams,
He's
right?
talking
Astralis is
Liquid,
talking
the big
to,
dogs.
yeah, they are talking to the premier teams. And so if he says there's like 12 or 13 of us getting ready to, put ink on paper because ESL has made concessions that they did not think that they would make, you could see ESL now come out on top. And I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, I do think if ESL made concessions based on what we talked about last show, right? They were probably listening to us. They were like, oh
course.
shit, the center ring is on us. They're breaking down the LANX agreement. They're really diving into the nitty gritty here. We need to make a change. And so maybe we're the true players association here fighting for change. But
I would be happy to represent them.
a change has been made. So whatever that change is, whatever concessions were made, whether that's how revenue sharing works, buy-in cost, it's got to be good enough to have caught Astralis' attention, which means it probably caught everybody else's. And so we're going to see a wave come through. The signings are going to happen soon, and
Well, it's also
hopefully
too,
that's next episode for us.
Man, I hope it's next episode.
Yeah.
We can't drag this out for 3. Like I need news. I need some meat in this burger here. But I guess that's kind of ignorant of all of us too to think. Like last week I guess the whole attitude around the ESL and B site was just kind of like, oh, this is their contract. This is the agreement. I guess they have to agree to this. And it's like, well, no, this is all negotiable, right? ESL is shooting for the stars and hopefully landing on the moon, right? That's really what they want to do here. Meet both ways. And everyone always says the saying is a good deal is where both parties walk away a little bitter about it, right? Mm-hmm. This is probably it. They're giving up a little bit. Astralis is giving up, or teams are giving up a little bit, and here we are. It's Tavik mentioned in the Twitch chat that it's kind of like XFL versus NFL with B-Site and ESL. We said the same exact thing last week, where ESL is kind of like the NFL. They're the business, corporate suit and ties, and B-Site is walking in with all these promises, and it's the unknown, right? What's going on here? And the one league that
definitely the unknown, but the fact that they did get commitments, like they have commitments from really big teams, so we can't like joke about who they do have, at least currently. I think having Dignitas, having Cloud9, having MIBR is a great standard regardless of how their current performances are. It's a great standard to set. So I don't think it's
Both are going to be great.
necessarily a fair example to be like, because XFL is like garbage tier NFL version, it's like
Yeah.
not even close. It's not even
It's the guys who got
semi-pro
cut.
for the most part. Yeah, it's like literally the nobodies of college football. So I think there is a difference in that sense, but it is the big boy versus the small guy here, right? Like
Yeah.
this is David versus Goliath. ESL does not want to lose this battle. They have all the previous relationships built out with like Intel, and there's just a lot of money tied to
Yeah.
ESL. Also, you have to think about teams that join ESL have an advantage of getting into Katowice, have an advantage getting into Cologne. Those are becoming close to, if not already, $1 million events. The Intel Grand Slam will have a huge setup on that, on being able to make more money if you're a top team and um, makes a team like Liquid or Astralis think twice if they have a better advantage, maybe not getting as much money up front, but making it in some of these other events that ESL hosts. And again, more reason to lean towards ESL. And it's going to be interesting because, again, I really love the talent that's sitting there at B site. And I wonder if there's any regrets after the signing of, if ESL wins in the team category. I mean, I would like the best talent to be casting that ultimately,
Right.
and so I think the fans will lose a little bit here either way. Those guys are all getting taken care of, and they're not going to be in a bad spot.
Well, if this is David versus Goliath, we have David's cousin Larry that everyone is forgetting about in the back, and that's Blast Premier, which is, I feel like, I don't know if they're happy or upset the fact that they're starting in 2 days with their Group A matchups, and almost no one is talking about it. It's going to get the views. I mean, once the matches kick off, it's going to be big. I'm not saying it's just going to be a bust. It's not going to be the Fire Fest coming up, but no one is talking about the fact that everyone's talking about, oh, ESL and B-Site, which one's winning? And then Blast Premier is like, guys, I feel like we're doing pretty good.
You know what Blast Premier is saying, Tim? Not which one's winning. We won. Blast Premier has been setting this up since early last year, and putting the steps in place to have their own league, their regular season kickoff at a time that doesn't conflict. So you don't have exclusivity issues, which I still don't understand why these two leagues are being stupid enough to fight rather than just having two separate time frames. Like, hey, that's on them. If they
Because
want to
that's
fight for
not
that
how
spot,
esports work,
and
Anuj.
that's
You know
a
that.
prime time spot, good for them. They can do what they want to do. But Blast Pro, Tim, is sitting over here in the corner saying, "Oh, y'all are fighting for teams? We have our pick of the litter." And let's kind of explain what Blast Pro is, just to kind of tee it off.
Well,
Do
it's
you
also
want
Blast
to
Premier. We're going to
Blast
screw that up
Premier?
100 times.
A million, yeah. Do you want to run through it, or you want me to kind of
Yeah,
go through what we have
go
here?
ahead and run through it.
So this is the Blast Premier Spring 2020 regular season. Again, Tim was mentioning that it kicks off this week here. It's starting on the 31st. The first stage of Blast Premier, and I wrote some of this stuff down, is the regular season. Is basically held over a 3-week period. 12 teams are invited to it. It's going to be hosted in London. And it's going to be like GSL style type groups. So the top 2 teams from 3 groups, so group A, B, and C, the top 2 teams automatically advance to the Premier Spring Finals, with the bottom 2 teams then going into an additional tournament to have to compete for those last 6 spots that are going to be available, right? So we're going to have half of these teams, half of the 12, automatically qualify for the finals, which will be held later in the year. And then the remaining 6 teams will hop into another Blast Premier tournament where those 6, along with 6 additional invites that have not been announced yet, will compete for those last 6 slots. Now, you ask, why is this a win for Blast Premier? What makes this a win? Well, again, they've set themselves up by not competing in an exclusivity issue. They've set themselves up to where these teams are able to compete in their league, regardless of what B-Site and ESL end up doing here. Each of the separate 3 tournaments, the initial tournament, again, which kicks off this week, the secondary tournament, which will be the remaining teams fighting for the last 6 slots, and the finals, all come with a prize pool starting at 300,000, then jumping up to 325, and then the final event being 750. Um, the reason that I feel like this is even more so of a win is Tim, they're getting their pick of the teams here. So you
Yeah.
start looking at who are the initial 12 invites, right? Who are going to be competing over the next 3 weeks, and how is it broken down? And you got Liquid, you got FaZe, MIBR, and NIP all in Group A. Group B is Astralis, Vitality, Navi, and Complexity. Group
Rip
C, Evil
complexity.
yeah. Group C, Evil Genius. It'll be a great test for him. Group C, Evil Geniuses, 100 Thieves, G2, and OG, not Optic Gaming, OG Esports. And so you really have just right here in front of us teams that are heavily favored in the top 10. You got fan favorites, you got up and coming. Like they really, I felt like did a fairly good job with not really excluding a ton of teams. Obviously, there's a couple here and there that we would like to see, but there's still 6 additional invites looming out there for the second round. And so, I mean, I don't know about you, Tim, but I really feel like this sets them apart. A, because it's now spread out over 3 different tournaments that we get to enjoy. They're not tied in a 6-week period where we're just gonna get overloaded with CS, right? Like those
Right.
leagues are gonna overload you with CS, and it's gonna be week after week after week. It'll be fun. It's gonna be great, but it's gonna be a lot. This is spread out over a period of time where we'll see 3 separate tournaments. You'll get to kind of follow storylines from each tournament to tournament. And again, there's still a decent amount on the line in terms of winnings of roughly 1.3 million. So not a bad take if you were the Blast Premier League, if you ask me.
No, and the fact that they are starting at a different time, they're not in the crosshair of the other guys, right? That's also a huge difference with this ESL and B site. It's like both of them, and more I get the vibe that it's more B site, but they're just going after the jugular of each other, right? Like it is clearly those two versus each other. I don't get that feeling whatsoever when it comes to Blast Pro or all right.
Blast Premier.
Blast Premier.
It's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there.
You know, it hasn't started yet. With Blast Premier. So, yeah, at first I wasn't that interested, but I don't know if with all the other drama, I'm just ready to see some good Counter-Strike. I don't know, but I'm excited for it.
Tim, can you tell me what else is going on with competing against Blast Premier and Counter-Strike this weekend?
Is it Anaheim? Maybe?
Who knows? Who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows? That's the best part. It's just Blast Premier. That's the main thing we're going to focus on when this event goes live. Now, when ESL goes live, you know it's going to be competing with ESL?
B-site and every other thing?
Exactly. You're going to have B-side going on simultaneously. So you're going to have to pick and choose,
no.
hey, we're going to have
wow,
to...
I'm way off base. Anaheim isn't for another month. So no, it is just Blast Premier has the stage.
They do, and they set the stage up well for themselves because they did this early on. And by doing it early on, they avoided a lot of these complex issues that we're running into now. And so for me, I'm going to sit here and I'm really going to enjoy Blast Pro. I think that is not, I don't want to say that's the last thing I would have said after last year. It's just they were like the third best in terms of TOs, right? You had ESL, you had ECS and Face It, and then you had the Blast Pro series, and the Blast Pro series was kind of a joke because generally of their format, we love the production quality, except for when they had to move the event in LA to Warehouse, which still looked cool for pictures. But we love the overall production quality. We love the UI, the color scheme. Like we said, a lot of positive
never
things.
Took the results as serious, right? Because it was 4 teams,
single elimination formats that they were doing, like BO1. So, they couldn't have cleaned up their image any better and at the perfect time, because I think the fans are also sick of hearing Thorin and these guys go back and forth and back and forth. And I know they're all trying to say we want to do what's right for the players, but there is a lot of personal investment and a lot on the line financially for all of these guys. And so again, you got to take all that nonsense with a grain of salt. Yes, what they're saying is informative, but shit, dude, I just want CS, like just give me some Counter-Strike. That's what I've been craving for 2 months now. I've not been craving a Twitter battle. Is it good for the show? Yeah, it's given us a couple of fun topics, but I would rather be talking about competitive Counter-Strike leading into the season, doing our preseason rankings, maybe who's going to be the MVP going into 2020. Who do we think is going to win this major coming up? Like I want to talk Counter-Strike. Right now we're talking about talent and we're talking about tournament organizers. So Blast Pro is giving us exactly what we want at exactly the right time. So I tip my hat to them because, again, they've given us some of the best teams in the world, and I don't have to worry about anything else besides enjoying some Counter-Strike this weekend.
Now, Thorn is an analyst at Blast Premier. If I was a betting man, which I am, and if there was a prop bet out there, will Thorin make a dig at ESL at some point during the broadcast? I would say 100%.
Yeah, if I was betting, Tim, I would bet my unborn child on it at this point. There is
Thorin is going to see that carrot dangling in front of him.
That this is probably one of the last visible opportunities he's going to have to make some sort of statement to hopefully pull some of these teams to sway their way. Because he's not just an analyst at B-Site. He's a creative director, I think, or whatever his title is.
He holds more power than just an analyst.
Yeah, like he's one of the guys that helped build out that league. And it's honestly kind of funny because I don't know if this is the reason, but like Thorin has had a tough time getting gigs. For whatever you want to speculate is that reason, whether he's like his banter is too much or he's willing to say things that others aren't. And that's one of the things we appreciate about him is he'll speak what's on his mind. You're going to get some good content from him. But him being involved with the building of that league allows him to now come back into doing what he really enjoys, and that's being a CSGO analyst. So I understand the pressure that's on them. I understand why they feel the way they feel and why they're putting it all out there, but it's just getting a lot to like listen to at this point. So yeah, I think there's a really good chance we hear him bring it up again at Blast Pro. They're probably going to tell him to tone it down, right? Like that's the last thing that they want on their broadcast is this drama coming out and spewing any hate towards ESL, because then ESL is going to throw Katowice at the same day as the Blast Premier finals and really mess everything up. But yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be in for a good show this weekend, not only from waiting to see what Thorin says, but obviously the CSGO to go with it.
Now, Blast Premier knocked their scheduling out of the park. Not so much ESL and B-Site. They seem to be letting egos get in the way of just working things out. I don't know what excuse CDL has. Because, yes, yet again, Anuj, it seems like they are just winging this entire inaugural season.
Tim, it was a simple mistake on the site.
It was a mistake on the site.
It was a little...
I forgot. I didn't
know. Little tiny issue
and people
on the website. I'm glad y'all caught it. Okay, I appreciate y'all taking a look at it. Aches, I appreciate you. Okay, I appreciate you finding this flaw in our scheduling. But this was an honest to God mistake. This was not to get the top two teams, top two fan bases. Dallas Empire being number one, obviously, but other top two fan bases out there with FaZe and Old Optic. This was not to get them into the finals together or
every single weekend.
Yeah, no. Just a simple error. It's corrected. We're good.
It was an oversight. It was just an oversight.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone buys that statement by CDL stating that it was an error on their website that people noticed, and so they went ahead and changed it, or not even changed it. I'm sorry, corrected it.
Corrected it.
Their wording is so precise on this because they don't want to get found out. And for those who don't know, what happened is Aches, playing for LA Gorillas, of course, former Envy, and you know who Aches is if you follow the scene.
Fan favorite.
Of course.
He gets shitted on a lot. I don't really know why.
But I think the fans like it, right? It's
yeah, they do. I think he likes it. I think he feeds
he's
off
the
of
heel, and they like it.
He enjoys it.
Yeah. Anyway, so he found out over the week. He was looking at the schedule and realized, wait a minute. FaZe and Chicago aren't even in the same group for any of the events that they're in. In fact, FaZe and Chicago are the only teams that don't play each other throughout, not just next weekend in London, even though both teams aren't there, right? But for the weekends that they're playing with each other, for the whole season, they don't play each other. Now you're asking yourself, why is that a big deal? Well, first off, name one professional sport out there where a team just straight up doesn't play the other team. Like, I even think
when everybody else plays each other.
Yeah, exactly.
That's important to know. When everyone else is playing each other, there's no way two teams should not meet.
I think they've even corrected that in baseball, right? It used to be where you didn't play some teams in baseball, but I think they've even corrected that in hockey. They just switched it up a couple seasons ago where you're going to play every team at least twice.
Yeah.
But I digress. The point is that they were the only two teams in the league that weren't playing each other. Everyone else played at least one game against the other teams. And again, you're saying, well, okay, sometimes scheduling. No, these are the top two teams in the league with the top two fan bases. You're talking about FaZe Clan versus Optic, right? For the fan base sake of it. I know they're Chicago Huntsmen, but everyone understands what the hell I'm saying. This was 100% intentional on their part because they wanted both of these teams that are clear favorites in whatever group they're in to run the table and make it to the finals as many times as they want.
And make it to the end game, which is, the grand finals for them. Yeah. And both be competing at that, ideally, maybe even in separate divisions there, so you could see these two teams match up at an important point in the season, right?
Yeah.
It also doesn't make sense, though, because this would draw some crazy viewership during the regular season, which is not a bad thing to have those numbers boosted as well. But I totally think that was intentionally planned. I think the correction that was made was needed. I'm glad they did it. They acknowledged it. They changed it. There's still a small chance that these guys don't play each other if
same but different,
win.
Right? They're in the same group, but they're not scheduled to ever play each other unless
they both have to win their first round matchup in order to play each other. You assume that they'll do that. If they don't, well, then okay, we're gonna miss out on it anyway. But
I think people's point is still, though, it's like you're still putting them in a situation where you're CDL wants them together, right? They are what is equivalent to New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox as far as viewership and storylines concerned. I think that's how CDL is viewing this, and they want them playing. If it was up to them, they'd be playing every stinking week, right? They want that viewership. They want that rivalry because these are the only two. I would say arguably like where the fan base is clearly carried over to one team, right? Like United fan base, I don't get the vibe that they all transitioned over to Dallas with Clayster. Like that's
no, because a lot of them probably liked Simp and like they would follow. Like Simp was such a popular player,
right? They're all now he's on Chicago, which you have if you were trying to pick what team, like okay, that's a pretty good team to follow.
And Prestini's on Mutineer, so like they all like clearly split up, right? Like none of them really went to the same place for the most part, and so you're right. Like these are two established fan bases. Not to say that like Envy isn't. It's just it's not the same in this.
I don't know. Like they didn't have that rabid fan base, right? Envy was popular, right? They've been around.
It wasn't a carryover from last year's team.
Yeah.
So if you were a fan of like Apathy or something last year, well, guess what? He's on like Seattle. Like he's not on Envy's team anymore, or pick anybody that was on Envy. So that's why that's a little different. These are like two gigantic juggernaut fan bases in Call of Duty, right? Like from your FaZe Snipe Clan days to your Optic, and obviously we all know that story. And so to not have them play each other felt weird anyway. Like I feel like that would be a good thing for the league because if they're both good enough, they're going to advance either way, right? Like one bad tournament's not going to kill the whole season. Otherwise, this would be pretty useless for a lot of teams right now. So, I'm glad they made the fix. I'm glad that we're going to most likely going to get to see them go head to head, and I guess all is dandy. But it's important to note that again, this really happened thanks to the traction of Ake's post. Like his post was out there. He was very vocal about it, as he
Had he
should be,
not
and as he's
posted, this would
always
not
been.
have changed. They would not have
No.
been like, guys, we noticed a mistake, quote unquote, on our website. Don't worry, we fixed it. No,
Yeah.
there would have been no way. No way in
Agreed.
hell. So we'll see. That probably won't be the last type of mistake. And it's also a little concerning, and I said this last week, or at least I thought about it, was when they announced, it's also, it's the CDL for this inaugural season is thrown off for me, because week 1 was just kind of your regular seasoned type of matchups, right? And now you're going into week 2 next weekend. That's going to be a different format. But now they're picking the matchups and the exact schedule involved, and that kind of throws me off, because it's like, okay, so it has nothing to do with seeding, apparently. Like, I'm sure it does behind closed doors, but it's all behind closed doors. Like, they even said on their website, like, this is decided by league officials. Okay, that doesn't tell me much, right? League officials tried making it to where Chicago and Atlanta weren't playing each other until the finals. So, like, what does that mean? And now apparently, like, they can just go in and change schedules up whenever. It's just, who's to say they're not going to change something up next
Again, but just like
month?
so much that's invested in these, like some of this stuff it really blows my mind how, either you think you can get away with it, or if it wasn't on an honest mistake, like how is that mistake
That's
made
just
of
a
all?
massive oversight.
Yeah, and it's
I
just
mean, some guy on he commented on Akes' thing, and he did like a simple Excel spreadsheet, cross-reference of, okay, these teams are all playing each other, and what are these 2 blank spaces, right? Like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize your schedule is messed up.
It would have made more sense if it was like London wasn't playing the Gorillas,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, look at that, like that's not fair, but nobody would have caused a fuss about that. So yeah, either way, I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, it's been corrected. Um, and now, we'll get what we want off of it. It's on the site. It's been updated. I think everybody's fairly happy.
Yep. There was one thing just on the same breath. Call of Duty update nerfing the M4, MP5, and those were pretty much the big ones that were used in week 1. Obviously, I don't think, apart from the sniper, I don't think you saw anything else other than a M4 and MP5 being used.
Yeah, the MP5, you're not going to be using like the 10 millimeter rounds anymore. They basically reduce those down to no functionality. The kill range has been adjusted. Um, Additional bullet for a headshot. So you may see guns like the Bison or the Uzi or the AUG be more productive, especially if they get some slight buffs to any of those weapons and you're a headshot god. Like you might see some of those guns come into play. I think the M4 will still be king of the assault rifles. Um, that's my guess right now. You may see some people start going to the Kilo or the M13, which received a buff, or even possibly the. I mean, well, I think those would be kind of the 2 main competitors right now. It'd be the M13 and the Kilo. Kilo had, I think, a massive recoil adjustment. So for console players, that's really big to give you some ease on the recoil there. But it's still not as good as the MP5 at close range, and not as good at the M4 at long range. It's kind of a tweener weapon, and
So
so
here's
we'll
my
kind of
my
see.
hot sports opinion on this one, though. This will not change necessarily the results that we saw in week 1, because I don't think it was like, I didn't see one player exceptionally struggling with an M4 and getting outbeat by someone who was just outworldly, right? Like the meta's cookie cutter. So one team's going to figure out what works best, and then every other team's going to be like, oh, that guy's kicking ass with a M13. Guess it's time to switch over, right? We see that all the time.
This is normal for Call of Duty,
Yeah.
right? Like you see a lot of balance changes. People figure out what ends up just like any other game. It's not like a Call of Duty issue or anything. People will figure out the meta. There'll be specific guns that are used, but if it does add some variety and add some variety to the casual gameplay, that's also a good thing, right?
What pro teams need to focus on is search and destroy, because that was the game changer. I mean, search and destroy and figuring out domination on what's the one map? I don't know any of the maps in Call of Duty. The one with B site in like the warehouse. Everyone knows it. I don't pay attention to map names.
Gunrunner.
No.
Hackney Yard.
Yeah,
it's Hackney Yard.
Hackney Yard.
Okay.
I know Gunrunner. Hackney Yard. Yep. Listen, the only maps I know are Counter-Strike, and I've played that game for 20 years. So the next time we see a Call of Duty game that lasts 20 years, probably never. But it's okay. They'll bring back Shipment in the next one. So yeah, there you go with the CDL controversy or conspiracy. Dum, dum, dum. Let's get into some e-news though, shall we? In CSGO, Fox, everyone remembers him, right? Has been suspended for 1 month's play from by the Spanish esports organization, as he was recently quoted in a tournament after a match. Like, this wasn't like some drunken tweet or something. Like, this was on stage for an on-stage interview.
After this individual that you're about to mention and her boyfriend, who was a competitor in this event, were like mad trash talking him on stage. Doesn't excuse what he said, but just know that it's not like he just got on stage and started talking a bunch of ish, right?
Right,
Like they were trash talking him the whole event, it sounds like. But yeah, go ahead.
So then we have, how do you say the name?
Wait, who are you looking at?
Vodafone?
Yeah, Vodafone.
Oh, that's the organization.
Yeah,
right?
Vodafone Giants.
So who was the guy talking smack to him?
I don't have that written down.
Alrighty.
I don't have that written down.
So long story short, though, yeah. So guy he was playing and his girlfriend talking smack. Fox's team ended up winning. And so in the post-game interview, he goes, "If she were my wife, I would have slapped her twice."
Oh, Lord.
Oh, and
that didn't go over well.
Quickly does a apology over Twitter and got a 1 month suspension.
He's not going to be playing in the minor qualifier because of this.
Right.
So,
and that's the bigger news, right? You're thinking, a month's not that long, but he's essentially disqualified from the major at this point.
Now, to think that this team had much of a chance in the EU qualifier, it's a whole nother story. But so, yeah, I mean, Fox recognizable, obviously coming from like G2, SK, FaZe, and all that. So,
she was my wife. I slap her twice. I mean,
it rhymes.
It does.
I kind of like,
you
he had good flow as he put it out there, but yeah, definitely not the appropriate thing to say now.
Not on stage. Maybe with your buddies, laughing it out in private. Fallen. Oh my God, I've never seen this happen before, but Fallen snaps. Mr. Calm, Cool, and Collected snaps on, was it Thorin? It must have been Thorin, right? Because Thorin runs his mouth, or did Monte Cristo say anything to piss him off? Like, who's someone that, Richard Lewis? He says some controversial thing. No, Semler. Semler hasn't been back in Counter-Strike for a minute, and he's already getting trashed on by like the scene's most respectable player in Fallen. So Semler
Did you hear this whole thing?
I saw clips of it.
Yeah, I did go back and like watch the interview to see the context, and they basically were asking Semler, what are your thoughts on MIBR going into this year? Do you think that they're going to be able to rebound and kind of ever get back to their glory days? And his whole thing was he thinks that they've lost some of their passion.
Which we've even said on the show.
Yeah, like he said, like, they had their drive and motivation because these guys were like sleeping on the floor, living in like terrible conditions, and so they had a lot to play for on their rise to fame, right? Yeah. And he goes, kind of now that they've like kind of made it, they're in much more comfortable situations.
To counterpoint Semler, I don't think sleeping in a bed causes a downfall. So all you young kids listening, trying to make their way in Counter-Strike, it's okay to sleep on a bed. I don't think you have to sleep on the floor in like an alleyway.
Don't be upset at your parents for giving you a good life.
Yeah.
Like, be like, because of you, I'm not going pro.
Why didn't you kick me out? Though,
No, but he said
Between
they
that
just
and
lost some of their
Stewie.
fire and Brazilian passion, and they may just be playing for a paycheck. Although he didn't say that's what they were doing. He was just kind of listing a bunch of things that could potentially be affecting their performance. And Fallen snapped him. You're right. Like he came out and
It's
he
like
was like,
3
"Don't
tweets
ever,
long.
yeah, like don't put our name in your mouth again." And
I don't think he apologized
good,
either.
good start for B side though. I mean, this is really like taking off the right
Yeah.
way. Like you're one of your 2 premier teams, and already going back and forth. Hey, that's content, Tim.
So Godspeed Semler is now you have the Brazilian fan base on top of you. I think I'd rather have the Russian mob after me rather
With
than
the Rio Major, you know Semler's gonna decline the
like
invite.
like what is more terrifying to have on you? The Russian mafia or Brazilian Counter-Strike fans? Like which one would you rather fight?
You just hold up the white flag in either situation there.
I take the mafia. I take my chances with the mafia. Michu signs with Envy. That was kind of a surprise one. I, for whatever reason, didn't see them going EU.
Yeah, no, I mean Michu's a well-respected player. I think it's a good signing for Envy. They still have a lot of work to go, but not a bad addition. And
Yeah. So that's a pretty good pickup. So what's his? I'm blanking and I lost the joke. I had a really funny joke. I was gonna knock it out of the park.
If it comes back, we'll bring it back in Enius.
No, the guy on Envy. Everyone was just mad at him. Why am I blanking?
Nifty?
Nifty. Jesus. It doesn't matter. I can't say the joke now. I screwed it up.
It's too late.
I was gonna say it's a great pickup by Nifty. Because he
It
runs
was
the
good-
org, right?
good
Nifty
addition
runs
from
the
him.
the Counter-Strike org. But no, it's ruined. It's not funny anymore. I'm sorry. I quit.
We'll move on. OG has added Rugga as their head coach. Zeus's autobiography has now come out in English. It's called Against All Odds, The Way to Victory. Hell, this guy's given some legendary motivational speeches to his team. He had a vision that he was not going to quit Counter-Strike until he won an effing major, to put it in his words. And so might be worth checking out in English. You can get it on Amazon. Find
Does
it
he
anywhere
bring us
there.
up?
Huh?
Does he bring us up? Like I spoke with this TCR at ESL Dallas.
Yeah, that was actually right before the change to Gambit, where we got a chance to meet him. And so I think we're mentioned in there, might be in the credits somewhere, just thanking us. But
I heard that we were in the Danish version, but when it was lost in translation coming to US. So if you don't see us, that's probably what happened. I'm sure it'll be out. It'll be corrected in version 2.
Yeah, we'll get it. More importantly, Tim, CSGO released a patch today, and this one is going to have some real implications to the competitive scene. They've opened up several skyboxes in the game. On Train, they've opened up the skybox going over Ivy. On Dust 2, they opened up the skybox in B tunnels, so you can launch your smokes out of B tunnels now and hit either double doors. If you throw it properly, you can even get it like near a window. You can block off a crossing path.
That's funny because we just played the other day and we both tried launching smokes over that exact spot. And we were like, I thought they removed the skybox.
I thought they did too at the time. I guess they did, and then they closed it. It's back open.
Maybe they
whatever.
talked about doing it. I don't know.
Everybody listens to us. So they open up the skybox and B halls towards site. Mirage really got the biggest change, and I find this fascinating because Mirage has been the one map that's been speculated that's going to be taken out of the map pool. I wouldn't feel so confident about that, and seeing the changes that they did make. So first of all, you can now self boost into mid window, rip all mid CT players. It was already shitty enough to play that spot. I hate playing mid on Mirage. It's really my least favorite spot to play. On CT side, I hate being the guy in the window. I just don't like it. Like it's a lot of
Doesn't
pressure.
hold a candle to covering drop on CT though. On Cobble.
Yeah,
That was
but at
the
least like
worst.
with mollies and stuff, you can kind of buy yourself a little bit of time. It's first shot for mid CT, and there's one-way smokes and all that. So you can now self boost. They added a little like a bench that you jump on, and then if you know how to kind of bunny hop a little bit, it's
You
not
get
a
on
very
that little
difficult
ledge
jump,
and
though.
whatnot. Do you think
Yeah,
that
you can jump on a
upsets
little
some of the pros though? Because that kind of
I think that changes the meta a lot because you used to automatically, it was a given if somebody got into the window, you knew there was at least a second player mid. that changes that significantly. Obviously, there doesn't have to be a second player there. So that, along with they added some like wall bang spots, so you can wall bang from what is that, Palace? You can wall bang from Palace to Jungle, which that's a very long wall bang. You can hit people hiding on the ladder corner. So some unique wall bangs. Go check it out if you want to see the exact details there. They widened the T entrance. They opened up spots on B, and there's like a jump peak area now in the middle of B site that you can now see down towards Cat.
Right.
So
not your
Mirage
standard.
got a lot of changes.
Not your standard. Increased the AUG by $300.
No, yeah, like this
it's a
was like
real
purely
one.
like opening up skyboxes and making changes. I say minor changes. I think these are going to be quite significant changes. So something to keep an eye on, especially as I'm assuming I don't know what Blast Premier will be playing on, but if this is implemented for Blast Premier, again, this really might make Mirage an insta ban for a lot of people because they either don't know how to play it or a
I
lot
doubt
of
they
new
play it
stuff
on this
there.
one. Then the fact that it's in 2 days, I doubt it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
In Overwatch, you got some news here. Mickey finally, the Fuel announced that Mickey is no longer on the roster. Put the poor guy out of his misery. He didn't play a match last year. He might have made one like donation appearance, like they just felt bad for him and their season was done anyway, so they threw him in for a map. Maybe? I don't even think they did that though. He was pretty much a poster boy for their homestand weekends and content. But so they officially announced that he is no longer on the official Fuel roster, and he's being either demoted or promoted, however you want to look at it, to being a content creator for Envy. So he will join Jade on Facebook. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know if Mickey will go on Facebook, but that was just a shot at Jade for deciding to quit being a coach and then becoming a content creator, and then you join Facebook Live, which is like, the least content creator move you could ever do. But
yeah,
I digress. Mickey is no longer on the starting roster. He was there since the beginning, so if you're a fan favorite, there you go. Other huge news though for Overwatch League, as they cancel all the upcoming homestands in the next 2 months, I believe it was, which might be all of them. I don't have the schedule up in front of me, but for China. So obviously with the scare of the coronavirus, they've canceled them, and they are trying to, I don't know if they're still just not going to have matches those weekends now or what they're going to do. I'm sure they're going to try replacing them, but they canceled
that's a tough
those
situation,
matches
but it was definitely the right move.
Yeah, you don't want to force.
I mean right now you're seeing
Mike tweeted out, owner of Dallas Fuel, tweeted out saying like, hey, this is unfortunate, but it's the right move because the Fuel had a already scheduled month. They were going to be in China for a month,
locked in a room and like never leave the house basically. So yeah, definitely a smart move. And we saw Mo and Doja, two big Counter-Strike players, left their CSGO team because their CSGO team was based in China. So they legit like quit the team and are free agents now because they weren't willing to live and participate in practices or anything over there. So this move was needed. It's unfortunate. These events were again to take place in February and March, and we will now find out, I guess, what's going to be replacing him, if anything.
Yep. Maybe Dallas gets another homestand. Give them 6. Why not? They already got 5. Cloud9 rejoins Dota, the game, the team that started my fandom. Sing Sing's not back on the roster, but they do return to Dota, which is kind of huge, right? They dropped out of a few games recently. PUBG, Apex? Did they drop out of Apex? They dropped a few teams recently, like in the last couple of months. So obviously we joked about because they needed the money to buy out ATK, and clearly now they're back in Dota. So that's huge for them, right? Cloud9's a top tier org. They should probably have a team in every top tier game, at least when you think of Dota, Counter-Strike, and League of Legends. So they are setting that ship right. Call of Duty announced this. Florida announced it, that they will have a Pro-Am in Miami prior to the Super Bowl, hosted by the Misfits, which is, of course, the team that owns Mutineers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did think that was pretty cool. I did notice they used Super Bowl in their title though, which you're not allowed to do. But hey, don't let me stop you unless you
Yeah, but
actually have
big
permission.
name players too. It's not like they had like some like a Todd Gurley, Keenan Allen, Leonard Fournette, Devontae Adams. So a lot of big names participating in it, and obviously players from the team, including the GM Ogre too. So it'll be
Which
fun to
don't
watch.
underestimate this. This is huge. To have players involved, if they become fans of some of these players, and like Ogre 2, there's a chance some of them, if they were fans of Halo back then, there's a slight chance that some of them might not, might even know who Ogre 2 is. But don't underestimate the power of having a professional athlete or a celebrity be a fan of your scene. Like, look at Fortnite. How many celebrities and basketball players do you see like just repping Fortnite and 100 Thieves gear? Don't underestimate if Devontae Adams all of a sudden just becomes buddies with these guys and realizes, like, damn, I play this on the weekend and I thought I was going to be good here, but these pros are on another level.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can
And
earn
like
that respect,
merchandise and things like that,
Yeah.
like you said, it's huge for things outside of just the game.
Yeah, it is. It could definitely, I'm not saying game changer, but it could definitely lead to things down the road. And then also with Call of Duty, Activision plans to add in-game items for when you watch on YouTube, much like how Twitch does, right? They have Twitch drops and things like that.
Yep.
Only issue is that doesn't exist right now on YouTube. YouTube never had to worry about that before, but now they got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, they don't know how to do it. Unfortunately, something that's like never been done. It seems like.
You gotta assume it's not that hard, right? I mean, it seems like every other place does it, but that will come eventually. And also with Battle Royale news, Apex Legend is adding a new character, Anuj.
Yeah, this is actually Tim. I love how they did this. So basically, there was a reveal, maybe like a week or two ago, a couple weeks ago, for a new character in Apex Legends. His name is Forge. They do this whole little like not comic series, but video series, creating a storyline similar to like how Overwatch does, and kind of builds up a storyline for all these characters, right? So they're not just characters in a game, they're characters in a world of Kings Canyon and all that, and kind of live in this world. So they had introduced a new character, Forge, and everyone was getting pretty stoked for him, but they were surprised because data miners had found like another character's name kind of stood out in terms of who they thought, and data miners have generally been right with Apex Legends. So they introduced Forge, they do this little video. In the end of the video, another character shows up called Revenant and kills Forge in the video, and now Revenant is the character that is being introduced as the new character in the game. So kind of cool how they did that. I really like what they did there to introduce this character. It was a neat little video segment that they made for it, and caused a lot of like fan controversy also, because there's a lot of rumors that they're introducing two new characters this season, Forge being the second one, because part of Forge's persona and character is that he is a actor and has stunt doubles. Well, the guy that they killed had a little marking on his face that was slightly different than the original Forge picture that we've all seen. So there's a lot of fan speculation that they're adding two new characters, and
Apex knows what they're doing. Despite what people might say early on, they seem to kind of they got their footing underneath them now.
They're definitely getting it going. I mean, the game is still a fun game to watch, and not a bad game to play. And I think with some of the right changes, some additional characters, especially adding two more, we've been saying it for a long time. We would just love to see more characters in this game, similar to Overwatch, Dota, League of Legends. It's just nice to have a huge character pool and really add some diversity to your game, including weapons and maps and all that. But this would be a good start. I think bringing in two at the same time would be huge. So anyways, keep an eye out. The new season starts in just a couple of weeks here. So last but not least, Tim, Atari is back, but not in the way that you think. They are leaving the console game scene, and they've announced a new chain of 8 hotels, which will feature like retro video gaming stations, an esports studio, virtual reality and augmented reality type setups. I think think of something like Ready Player One, kind of similar to that. Maybe that's kind of the vibes I'm getting of this hotel, along with like conference rooms and all that stuff. But the first one's set to launch in Phoenix, Arizona in late 2020, and additional hotels are planned for like Vegas, Denver, Chicago, Austin, Seattle, San Francisco, and San Jose. We will see how this goes. I think most of us probably have our doubts on this whole setup. I don't think there's a big need for like retro gaming. To me, is like cool in an arcade, but that's really it. Like, I don't think it's going to draw.
If you want to throw this thing in Vegas, I'm in. Right? You want to make an Atari video game themed in Vegas and things like that, I'm in. I don't know. They're going to have to find a place to put the Atari VCSs no one buys later this year, which is their new system coming out. Atari's coming out with a new system later this year. I think it's going to be a bust. So they got to find out somewhere to put them. So building a hotel with thousands of rooms is probably a good place to start. So, you know.
At least you get some sales out of it, right?
I'm excited.
I'm overly skeptical about this. Again, I think the retro gaming stuff is like fun in small batches. I think
it's fun for 10 minutes, and then you're like, all right.
Yeah, like it is what it is, right?
And
that's
then, for boomers.
I'm also not going to be like traveling to a place with my wife and be like, hey, let's stay in this Atari hotel. Like,
now it'd be cool, like for us, right? Like I would for the show say, dude, why don't we just go stay a weekend here just to figure.
Let's drive down to Austin and check it out.
Yeah.
You know?
Will they have one in Austin?
That's what it says.
It says,
one of them
okay, then yeah, like I'll go down in Austin. I think that's what it will be, but whatever. That will do it for this episode of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast, episode 208. It's done. It's in the books. Thank you so much for listening. I feel back. I feel like my cold and flu is officially out of my system. I feel a lot better, so thank you. Thank you for all your thoughts and prayers. We will be back actually Tuesday. So we are not going to record Sunday night. We'll record Monday night for Tuesday's episode. The Super Bowl is this weekend, folks. And you know what? Sorry, we're American. And my God, we're going to watch the Super Bowl. So we want to just sit that and enjoy some football with some family and friends. So we're going to do that Sunday. We'll be back recording Monday night live for you. So check that out. And of course, the podcast and everything on Tuesday. Get all your friends and family to listen. Follow on Twitter at The Center Ring. Join our Discord. Let us know what you think of the show. Join the chat. Get in the conversation. ESL, B-Site, announce some shit so we got something to talk about. We'll appreciate it. James O'Connor might be on next week. We'll find out. Before Anuj, I'm Tim. We'll see ya.